All right. We're in section 307. I did point out for you in our manual and the material that I sent you that may is used as an emphatic negation. There is a form may and it's where these two are reversed, and that doesn't carry the emphatic. So it's a little bit different in meaning. So about 4 or 5, maybe half a dozen times in the New Testament, may is found, but may is found a number of times. Okay. Now, any questions? All right. Now, I also pointed out for you, and I'll go up to it real quick. You notice there's no infinitive down here with it. You notice that. And we don't have an infinitive form there with ame. No infinitive with luo. There's no subjunctive infinitive form. So how do they get a construction that functions like an infinitive to have a construction like that? Well, we're going to see that right here. A purpose clause can function like that. Now, this book here doesn't tell us that, but other advanced Greek grammar books tell us that. And so what they call that construction is, they call it paraphrastic form. It's called a paraphrastic construction. And in English, the Greek preposition peri, around, has come into the English language. And of course, that's a phrase that says it in a roundabout way. That's all that means, paraphrastic. So it functions like an infinitive. See right here now, with hina and hopos function in a paraphrastic form like an infinitive. So it kind of replaces the infinitive, which they don't have. So it gives them a construction that can do the job of an infinitive, or a lot of the things infinitives do. Any question or comment there? You see the term paraphrastic and from time to time, and it's just saying things in a roundabout way. Well, that's how we would describe it in Oklahoma and Okie talk. Okay, right now. So right here we have constructions in hina and hopos are used with the subjunctive, either present or aorist subjunctive, in a telic, and that's from telios. Or there's a whole bunch of words, E-L-I-O, telios. I think that's how it's spelled. Let me make sure here. There may be an epsilon right here. I think there is. I think, yes, telios. Okay. And then there's another form of that, that's just this word. They're from the same basic root word. Okay. Any question? And that's where this word over here, telic, comes from. Okay. That which is perfect in 1 Corinthians 13 is from this word that I just erased. Okay. All right. We won't worry about that. If you have my Holy Spirit books, I developed that in some great detail. So that would be for further study. I documented it with a number of sources. Okay. All right. So that's what they mean by telic. You'll see that term telic. It's in an English dictionary, in a good English dictionary that is, and it's purpose. It's a purpose. So these two words, hina and hopos, notice the rough breathings, are used with subjunctive. Now, these words take the subjunctive, they go with the subjunctive, or they could go with the optative case, which we haven't covered yet. The optative is real rare in the New Testament. It's found a few times, but not many. It will be one of the last things we cover in this book. Optative mood. It's a wish. Generally, most of the time, it's a wish, right? Something, a desire or a wish. Okay. Now, So these two words, hina and hopos, go with subjunctive, and sometimes they may go with the optative case, but I don't think they ever go with the indicative mood. I mean, case, a mood, with a subjunctive mood rather than, or sometimes called mode in some writers. And these both go subjunctive, or sometimes the optative mood or mode. And so they would be translated in order that. Now, what hopos is the pronoun, relative pronoun ho and pos. So you can look up these two words and they were put together and made into a new word, hopos. So it's from two words, pos and then ho. Okay. All right. Tata, lego, hina, ego, soze, humas. So right here, this I say. Now then here, hina is going to introduce a purpose. All right. So it's introducing a purpose clause. I say this with the purpose that I may save you. Now, how do I know this is subjunctive? Now, remember, let's go back up and review just a bit. I'll remember that. So, the ending is an omega ending, which we said last week that this function, this right here, is the same ending you have an indicative, first person singular present indicative. Yes, it is. And so our problem is that how do we know it's subjunctive? I said it's subjunctive. So what's your key that tells you it's subjunctive mood? Help me out here. Because you need to do this to learn to read context. This will help us.
Well, it looks like hina would be it, wouldn't it?
Yes, hina is your key, and it's a flag. It says this only goes with the subjunctive, so that means this verb is subjunctive. Not the verb before it, but the verb after it. Okay? So right here, it's a flag that kind of warns you this is going to be subjunctive mood. Even though it looks like it could be a indicative, it's not because of hina. All right? I say this, or this I say literally. I say this in better English. Hina is in order that, that's hina, I might, or I may save you in order that I might. So it's kind of iffy because the salvation is dependent upon our obedience, of course. We would see that I might save you. So the purpose, it's subjunctive. And so that's a purpose statement. Why do I say this? In order that I might save you. I'm saying this with the purpose of saving you, that I might save you. That is, any question or comment there? Okay. Efagusin, aton, hina, staurosin, aton. And of course, this is plural. They lead him. Now again, hina again is going to give us this osin. Of course, this osin ending is subjunctive. We don't have a problem with it. Now, I want you to notice here, I'm going to know what I've highlighted. I left the new off the highlight. That's what they're trying to tell you here on this right here. Oops. And so this new is a movable new. See, so the new is where I put the cursor is there, and of course it's there because of what? Well, because this is a diphthong. So we don't want to, we have an iota ending, we put this do in there between them. We don't say a apple, we say an apple. Okay. Any questions? Okay. They lead him, and this is a go, and then usi, they lead, and then X is out of, and this it was a kappa, but because the off here becomes a C, X out of, they lead him, atone him, accusative case, out. The out comes from ek. So this out comes from this ek. And they lead is this right here with the movable nu. They lead. And then out, of course, comes from this, and the him comes from this, atone. In order that, and then usi, they might crucify him. That was their purpose. So the purpose of leading him out was to lead him to crucifixion. And if this is in the Bible, it sounds like something I think I've seen it somewhere. But it would, of course, be the Lord's crucifixion. Okay. So again, Hina tells you, of course, it's the form is exclusively, remember the long connecting vowel, omega is longer than omicron. And so that instead of usi, it becomes os and osi, with the nu being movable nu. Okay. And so that's your form. Okay. Any question? Okay. Ho kurios apextalken me hopos. Now we don't have hina anymore, we have hopos. Anablepsis. Okay. Ho kurios, the benevolent Lord, the Lord, he what? Okay. Has sent me. Now, it's a kappa here, so notice, and that is, of course, an augment right there. Remember, the augment goes between the preposition and the main verb. And so, has sent me, this is enclitic. Why does this have two accent marks on it? Normally just have one. Tell me why. I gave you a hint just a moment ago. This is enclitic. It loses its accent mark, and this accent mark with normally what with may winds up going back here with it. I was talking may. And what I've been able to determine is the claim is that this may would have been pronounced with this word apostolic may. And it wouldn't have been treated like two words. It almost butted up against it. So it's enclitic, it loses its accent. Accent goes with the word before it. That's why it has two accents, okay? Hopos, and then that's a dead ringer, and that tells you this is going to be subjunctive. Hopos. In order that, right, you may recover sight. And so this is from blepo, but it's blepses, and so it is subjunctive, and ana is again or up. So you may recover sight. Okay? And that's subjunctive, so that's your purpose of it. This is the purpose. So these are periphrastic forms that are functioning almost like an infinitive. All right, any questions? All right, okay, number 308, section 308 now. The subjunctive in clauses of fearing. Now this, he says fearing, but notice here, fearing, caution, anxiety, these are all in this same category, are introduced by conjunction may or hina may. And that's lest. And remember, may does not go with the indicative mood, except in one exception. And that would be when it says ume. So let's go back up and see it. We could have ume, emphatic negative. That's the only time that I know of that may goes with the indicative mood. and it would be in a negation, emphatic future negation. Okay. All right. I think it will go with the indicative mood in that case. But may always, and all other instances, will go with the other moods. That is, it doesn't go with the indicative, it goes with the other moods. Now, the other moods are subjunctive, which we're studying here, imperative, which you figured out that we got an imperative mood, and then the optative mood. Those will be your other three moods, okay? And so hina may in order that not. All right. Usually takes the subjunctive mood when it means usually it could take some of the other moods, but they usually take the subjunctive. Okay. It's kind of a key for the subjunctive, but it can go with the optative. Or also may pote, lest at some time, lest happily. So we've introduced another word for us here. We have may, may, or may pote. These three here. And they can introduce causes of fearing, which would be caution or anxiety. Anxiety and fear kind of overlap one another. Caution could be as well. Any questions? Right. Here's an example: lest, may tell you, or at some time, or lest happily. Right. Ho diabolos, ire, ton logon, me, pistus ontes, zosin. Now, ho diabolos is the devil, or bolades is something thrown, and dia is through. So to cast someone through with something. And in the context of the word being used, it's almost thrust people through with words. And we pierce them through with words, piercing words. And of course, it's a false accuser. And of course, in the book of Job, we understand Satan is a false accuser. He falsely accused the good man Job. Right? So the devil, the false accuser, takes away, and so he carries away the word. And of course, this is probably from the parable of the soils or the sower. The word, in order that, why does he carry it away? Because he knows it has the power to produce faith, Romans 10:17. In order that not, less, see that's less up here, that not believing they may be saved. So this is a participle in order that those would not believe and lead to salvation and to be saved and might be saved. Then the process of believing they might be saved. Right? So that they will not go through the process of believing and be saved. So now we're not saying faith only here. It's just saying you have to believe in order to be saved. And he wants to take away the option of believing. He has to take away God's word somehow and get people quit listening to God's word in order to, because it'll produce faith. All right, any questions? This is probably from the parable of the soils. I believe that's in Luke 8 and Matthew 13, I think, are the two places. Parable of the sower. I'm sorry, I always want to call it the parable of the soil, but it's sower. Jesus calls it the parable of the sower. And when I was a young preacher, I got up and says, that parable is misnamed. It ought to be the parable of the soils because it looks at the different kind of soils. But then I got to read it again. I got up and corrected myself. I said, it was not misnamed because the Lord named it the parable of the sower. Okay. So you got to be careful. If you're not careful, you'll stick your foot in your mouth. Mepote, and that's lest. Now right here, let's go back and see what this word is. Okay, we're going to go back up. Right there it is. That's our word. that's a third person singular present subjunctive of a me. All right. All right, let's come down here. Where was it? Right here, okay. Lest it should be, or it might be, thorubos, to lest there should be a tumult of the laity, of the people. So this is your subjunctive mood verb it's a being verb from a me, okay, third person singular present subjunctive. Okay. Lest it should be. Then it's referring to the tumult. Referring to the tumult. Now, remember a me being verbs and ginomai as well, and one or two others. They take their objects in the nominative case, and they do it in English as well. So they'll take a being verb takes its object in the nominative case, or predicate nominative, or it could take a predicate adjective. Could be either way, but usually it's a predicate nominative. Nominative, predicate nominative would be a noun that's in the nominative case that's functioning like the subject, okay, or renaming the subject. And so right here is predicate nominative. And so the tumult is the predicate nominative. And it's that not be a tumult of the people. Right. I've got someone that's trying to put, I'm going to have to reload my system. Okay, got something that's trying to put a virus on me. I ignore it and get rid of it. But it's just a pain that's been going on for several weeks. All right. I'll get rid of it. All right. Okay. Blepete me tis humas plane. All right. And this is from blepo. Blepo, as I say, omenete. So that'd be second person plural. You see, not a certain one or someone, a certain one might deceive you. And so may here again, so go with and tell us this is subjunctive. And so take heed. Really what this is calling us to do is to look out carefully for it. We have to be aware of this, and it's foolish to close our eyes to error and just act like it doesn't exist. We got to be aware of it, but we don't want to be so unbalanced that we spend all of our time looking for error. We need to be preaching the truth. So a balanced perspective to it. And so we see, or take heed, you see, take heed, lest, may is lest, right here, lest someone, and this is a certain one, so probably in the context, it would be someone that he's talking about, and he's just talked about, probably the sentence before it, just before it, or pretty close to it. You, accused of case, may be deceived. All right. Let someone deceive you. All right. Look carefully at this. All right. Any questions? All right. Now, here's something I've been telling you all along, but now we have it down here. The negative with subjunctive, of course, is may. And here's an example of it. He now may a. And remember, this is from a me. In order that he may not be. In order that he may not be. In order that he may and then not. And it's and be, it comes from this being verb, from a me. Right? Third person singular, present, subjunctive. Okay? He may be comes from this, and not is from may, and he not is in order that. Purpose clause. Question? All right. Now you'll see these quite a lot. So when you see he not, his flag goes up. It's going to tell you the purpose. And this helps us in interpreting the Bible. Because when you're going through it, you see he not, say, now we know the purpose of that prior statement. What was the purpose of this? What is the purpose? Or if you see, you could see may, or he not may, or maple tay, and lest. And of course, you can also get a purpose clause with hopos. Okay? Right? Questions or comments? All right. Vocabulary. Agnoeo. And so I do not know and I am ignorant. So the offer privative is negating it. And so we have, I do not know, I'm ignorant. Now, most people are ignorant of the meaning of the word ignorant. Okay. I've run into this. I've used the term ignorant one time from the pulpit, and maybe 100 people in the auditorium, and several of them got upset with me. And I said that some people are ignorant of this point. And I then went through and expounded a section of scripture, what it meant. And some people got upset with me, and not what I preached, but that was because they didn't understand that before I preached it. They thought I was calling them ignorant, and I was. Okay. But ignorant doesn't mean stupid, although a stupid person would tend to be ignorant. But ignorant just means you don't know. That's all it means. And I would say I know some very intelligent people who are, I got a good friend I went to high school with, very, very intelligent man. And he has a PhD in mathematics, but I bet he doesn't know a lot about nuclear fusion. Okay, but he studied math and has had general physics, probably. And he and I went to school together from 12 years, and then we went to the university together for a couple of years. But he was very, 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 very intelligent, and yet he's probably ignorant of that, although he's an extremely intelligent person. So, and you got to be careful of the words you choose, people. Ignorant people will cause trouble over stuff like that. Okay. And technically, I was calling them ignorant because they didn't understand the meaning of that passage. And nobody challenged my interpretation of the passage. It was just I was making this point that this is something we missed. And we have a lot of ignorance in the brotherhood on some things. And for instance, but anyhow, so I got off and got myself into hot water over it, but everything worked out. All right. And then here's another offer privative. Kathartos is clean, and offer privative makes it unclean. Okay. And I think our word catheter comes from this in a medical sense. Catheter. Okay. And catheterize. Okay. And then there's pito, fall, and then epi, upon, to fall upon. Okay. Fall upon or come upon. Thalibo, I press. And the what we have is we have a noun form. This is a verb, of course. The noun form of this is the word for oppression or to persecute. And it's translated in several different ways with that idea. But the pressing of someone, you're pressing them hard. And one of the tortures that they would put upon people is they would stretch them out on a table and then put weights on their chest. And you'd have to breathe and lift up that weight to take a breath. And after a while, you grow very tired, and then it begins to scare you. You're about to suffocate because you can't lift that weight up. Put large rocks on your chest, a weight of some sort. People can be mean, very mean. I hope none of us are persecuted like that, tortured, but if it comes, I hope we're able to withstand it and stay faithful to the Lord. Hina, and of course he says with the subjunctive, but you might note here and put it in your notes here, it could be with the operative in a few cases. So, but most of the time it's subjunctive mood. Operative is rare. It's only found, it's just a few times in the New Testament. I think Hina is found with it once or twice in the operative. It's a purpose statement in order that. Called mao, and this is I sleep. And the passive is I am asleep. Figuratively, it's a figure of speech for dying. Right? And probably because the body of one who dies looks like he's asleep, looks like a sleeping person. Cardano, I gain. Mastix, a whip, a scourge. This is the time that's called Easter, and the time for the religious groups around us claim to be Christian. They're going to celebrate the Lord's crucifixion and resurrection, I guess. But the problem with that is that we celebrate it every Sunday with the Lord's Supper. But the scourge was a terrible thing. They would put bones and broken glass and pieces of metal, sharp pieces of metal, into different parts of that whip and strands of it. They would flay the back with it and then pull real hard to tear the flesh. Our Lord's flesh was torn terribly according to a prophecy in the book of Psalms. I think, if I interpreted correctly, you could see some of his ribs after they got through scourging the Lord. But that's my interpretation of the passages. Okay. Also, another passage says they pulled out his beard, pulled out the hair from his beard, and pulled it out. Okay, mastis, scourge. Hupotasso, again, that's hupo, and tasso, to place or set, and to place under. Tasso is to place, and hupo is under. And our word hypo, the rough reading, and the upsilon becomes a ypo, hypo. Hypodermic is under the derma skin, under the skin. And so hypo is a prefix, hypo, and from hupo is a prefix in English. Atazu, and that's between, it's an adverb. It's figuratively affliction. Now we use an expression in Oklahoma where I grew up, and probably other people in the United States do. He's between a rock and a hard place. Boy, he's got troubles. And this kind of fits in there with it as well, with affliction. May, of course, is your negative, negating, but it can be used as a conjunction too, in order not to say. So that's why it's last with the subjunctive. Hopos, rough breathing, hopos, with the subjunctive in order that. So it takes subjunctive. I don't think it takes the optative in the New Testament. I'll have to go back and do some checking on that, but I don't think it goes with the optative ever. But I might be wrong on that. But if it went with another mood other than subjunctive, it'd probably be the operative mood. In order that, purpose clause, and to continue in with the dative wait on. And pros is the word, a preposition. So cartereo, pros cartereo, and that's a continue in or with, or continue with. Now, this would be toward. So if you're toward someone, I think of a young man and young woman that are about to get married. They turn toward each other. They're just goggle-eyed and looking at one another. Okay, and so I'm not making fun. Okay, continue with the dative. Now, see what they're telling you here. It takes its object in the dative case. Continue in or with that other person, or you wait on that person. Okay. All right. Stay redzo. And that's all right. Stay redzo, fix or place firmly. To fix something is to attach it. It is fixed to what our word fixture probably comes from that idea. Place firmly. Phaneros, something that is clear or manifest. Okay. Now we have compound word, martyria is testimony, and pseudo is false. So we have a false testimony, a lying testimony, untrue, and so this is a false testimony. Now we can make it into a pseudo martyr and then just drop this off. And that would be a person who gives false testimony. Okay. Are there questions?
Yes, sir. Sterizo versus sterixo.
Okay.
What's the thought there? I'm assuming that's what they're doing with ixo. Is it sterixo? And
Yeah.
Is that just showing us the subjunctive, or what?
No, I think that's showing us like what we're here. That probably is your future tense. I think that's the future tense form of it.
Future tense. All right. Thank you. That helps.
Okay. So we have it in both those instances here. Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. Now let's come over here to this. Did you guys get this into this translated, or do you need to work on that some more? I can do some other stuff. That's some other stuff I can go through if you want, if you haven't done this yet.
I think we both done it. I do think there's a couple of errors potentially in it. Either that or I'm just not understanding it correctly.
Okay.
For example, in that first sentence, acuntes, I think that should be acuontes instead. There's an omicron missing between the upsilon and the nu. Is that correct, or did I get that wrong?
So I got the original book here.
Okay.
He's probably got it pretty well, corrections pretty well made. Section 311.
It could be me, but
Okay. Contes. This is what he has in the book right here. Is this what you're talking about?
yes, sir, that is. When I looked up the lexicon, I thought there was a omicron missing, but I'll check it again. And the other question I have is somewhere on the third line from the bottom, the word us on the far right.
It probably should have a rough reading there. Is that what you're saying? Yes?
Yes, yes, sir, because that word is ear.
Yes, it needs a rough reading right there.
Okay,
I missed that. I missed that. I'm sorry.
oh, no problem.
Uh,
When I was trying to translate it, I'm going, how does ear fit into this?
that should have a rough reading there. You're right.
Thank you, sir. And I'll do a double check on the other.
Why don't we do this? Let me go and sneak off into this other material it'll take maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and we can do this translation next week. Is that all right?
Yes, sir, that's fine.
Or put
Sounds
another
good.
file here, and tell me if you're seeing it. You see it? It should be up there. Do you see it?
No, just the old one. I'm still at 311 text A.
Yep, same here.
Okay. Well, what I'll do is I'll go out of it and get I'll stop sharing. You see it now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
What do you see?
Barajo to see.
Oh,
In the middle of the page.
here's Hopos here. Right? That's Thayer's definition of it. Notice it's post and the relative whole, one of our words. Now I want to go to the end of it. I want to get okay, here's the information you have here. This is discussing the uses of may and oo. Okay. We have a bunch of information. This is in this file that I gave you. Dana and Mandy, Summers, Robertson, Davis, Dana and Mandy, Porter, Robertson, A.T. Robertson, Big Grammar. And here's the difference between oo and may. All right. All right. Here's May, and there's May Day. All right, there's more on May. I thought I had oo May here. All right, let me do this.
Maybe you have it under the Omicron listing. These all begin with U, of course.
That's what I was thinking, what I was going to do right there.
Not seeing it there.
Yeah, here it is. Oo May. All right. Now I want to get you something on ooh. Ooh normally doesn't have an accent mark on it. Notice right there. First Bacher tells us if it has an accent mark on it, it's emphatic. All right. So when you see ooh with an accent, it's supposed to be emphatic. All right. That may be an interpretation of the compilers of the text, though. Here's ooh may, and it tells us here, and that's something we just looked at. Ooh may, with the light of the papyri has thrown upon the doubling of the negatives, we can say unreservedly that the negatives are double for the purpose of stating denials or prohibitions emphatically. So it can be in a denial or a prohibition, very emphatic. All right, ume is used as the aorist subjunctive, very rarely present, or occasionally the future indicative in the sense of emphatic negative future indicative. According to Davis. Subjunctive is used to express emphatic negation. In this construction, it employs a double negative ume and is much stronger than the simple u with indicative. Okay. So this gives you more information about it. And there's several sources telling you in a little bit different wording what this means. Okay. Now, any question about that? Firstbacher says, combined negatives ume are emphatic and are found only with the future indicative and the aorist subjunctive. Okay. Right. Now, right here we have may u. And here's some places it's found. Right. Now, it's not found very much. In the case of may u in questions, and may is the interrogative particle, while u is the negative of the verb. So they function differently. May u does than u may. And that kind of just dial that in the back of your mind, and here's some places it's found. All right. We've seen it in Romans, and if you're in the 1 Corinthians class, we're going to wind up looking at in these two classes, I think every time it's found in the whole New Testament is in these two books. Okay. Right. And what here Porter tells us, a good rule of thumb is that may a compound negative results in a question expecting a negative answer with the clause and the verb negated. All right. Here's the places it's found: John 18:11, and the rest of them are in Romans and 1 Corinthians. Not found but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times in the New Testament. But that'll help you when you run into that. And of course, both of you in the 1 Corinthians class that's going on right now. So that'll be important to kind of compile that in the back of your memory. Make a note of that for yourself. Okay. It's also found in Romans 8, John 18:11. All right. Any other questions?
No, thank you. Good information.
I wanted you to see that, and particularly since I knew you were in the 1 Corinthians class, and we'll be seeing it 3 times in 1 Corinthians. So kind of go back here and see what Porter says about it. I'm going to give you some information. I'll highlight it right there. There's Porter. Okay. Any questions? Other questions? Now let's go back up here. U and may, just one little quick thing. U, when it's used in a question, is always implied the expected answer is yes. And in many. Question expecting a positive answer normally is negated by U. U sometimes function in interrogative with expectation and anticipation of an affirmative answer, which means a positive answer. Okay. Affirmative. This occurs in all tenses, first part. All right. May expects a negative answer. Now you have to go over to may and find it. All right. Any question? Now, if you want to do searches on this, you can just highlight it and do a search like for may. Just take this word right here and then Control H. We'll see, and then Control H, put it in there, and put it in here, and Control V, and then you can just search, find it. Of course, that'll be found a whole bunch of times, but you can find it. And the same thing with U or UMA. Okay. All right, you know how to do your search on your computer, I'm sure. Any questions? I'm gonna end the class right now. We'll start the other class in a few minutes. Okay. I'll see you guys in about 10 minutes or so. We'll be back up.
All right, thank you, sir.
Sounds good. Thank you.